In early 1941, the British believed North Africa was practically won. Italian forces had collapsed under the pressure of the British-led Western Desert Force. Cyrenaica had fallen. Tobruk was taken. Tripoli was threatened. Mussolini's North African Empire was crumbling. Desperate, Italy turned to Adolf Hitler. Hitler didn't consider North Africa decisive. His eyes were fixed eastward, toward the Soviet Union. But he couldn't allow Italy to collapse. So on January 11, 1941, he issued Directive Number 22 and sent a rising star to stabilize the front. Erwin Rommel. Rommel had just earned fame commanding the 7th Panzer Division during the invasion of France. His unit moved so fast it became known as the Ghost Division. He attacked unpredictably, appeared where least expected, disregarded rigid planning. He was supposed to command a defensive blocking force, a Sperverband, under Italian authority. Instead, he attacked. In March 1941, Rommel sensed British complacency. The British expected no major action until May. They were exhausted after months of fighting Italians. Rommel struck. With inferior numbers, he bypassed strongpoints, hit supply lines, and shattered static defenses. British forces retreated in disorder across Cyrenaica. Only Tobruk held out. Australian troops dug in and refused to surrender. Rommel, now at the end of his supply lines, laid siege to the port. His superiors in the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht were furious at his insubordination. Hitler was thrilled. Rommel was promoted and given command of Panzergruppe Africa, controlling both the German Afrika Korps and Italian Corps. But then on June 22, 1941, everything changed. Germany invaded the Soviet Union. North Africa became secondary, and that would matter later. By late 1941, the British had regrouped. General Sir Claude Auchinleck launched Operation Crusader in November to relieve Tobruk. Heavy armored fighting erupted across the desert, especially around Sidi Rezegh. Rommel saw opportunity. On November 24th, he personally led the 21st Panzer Division east toward the Egyptian border in what became known as the Dash to the Wire. It was classic Rommel, bold, risky, aggressive. But this time it failed. He outran his fuel. British forces did not collapse. New Zealand troops broke through and linked up with Tobruk. Rommel had gambled and lost. By the end of 1941, he was back at El Agheila, nearly where he started 9 months earlier. The myth of invincibility had cracked. Rommel rebuilt. In May 1942, he struck again, this time at Bir Hakeim. Axis forces maneuvered brilliantly, enveloping Allied positions. Then came the shock. On June 21, 1942, Tobruk fell in just 2 days. 35,000 Allied troops, mostly South African, were captured. The fortress that had resisted 9 months in 1941 collapsed almost instantly. Hitler promoted Rommel to field marshal. It was the peak of his African campaign, but peaks are dangerous places, because from here, everything turned. The battered British 8th Army retreated to El Alamein, and geography betrayed Rommel. To the north, the Mediterranean Sea. To the south, the impassable Qattara Depression. The front narrowed to just 40 kilometers. Rommel's greatest strength, wide desert maneuver, vanished. Then leadership changed. Winston Churchill replaced Auchinleck with Bernard Law Montgomery. Bernard Law Montgomery was cautious, methodical, unimpressed by myths. He refused to attack prematurely. He rebuilt the 8th Army. He waited. In August 1942, Rommel attacked southward, hoping to outflank British lines. Montgomery anticipated it. British intelligence, aided by ultra-decrypts, knew Axis plans. Rommel's panzers ran into prepared defenses at Alam Halfa, dug-in tanks, artillery, minefields. The attack stalled. Axis fuel shortages worsened. Rommel's health deteriorated. The initiative shifted, permanently. October 23, 1942, Montgomery opened a massive artillery barrage. British forces advanced through dense minefields. German anti-tank guns inflicted heavy losses. The fighting was brutal. But this time, numbers and supply favored the Allies. British artillery could fire 30 shells for every German one. On November 2nd, Montgomery launched Operation Supercharge, a concentrated assault at Kidney Ridge. Rommel tried to hold. Hitler ordered him to stand and fight to the death. Rommel disobeyed. On November 4th, Axis forces began retreating west. El Alamein was the turning point. Churchill famously declared it the end of the beginning. On November 8, 1942, Anglo-American forces landed in Morocco and Algeria under Operation Torch. Rommel was trapped between two advancing armies. The wide desert, once his ally, was gone. Tunisia's mountains limited maneuver. Supply collapsed further. Tripoli fell in January 1943. By March, Rommel was recalled to Germany. On May 12, 1943, Axis forces in North Africa surrendered. Nearly 250,000 Axis troops were captured. The African campaign was over. Let's break it down. 1. Logistics. Rommel's army depended on sea supply across the Mediterranean. British-controlled Malta and Allied naval power disrupted shipments. Even when supplies reached Africa, truck shortages prevented delivery to the front. Desert warfare consumed fuel at extreme rates. You cannot maneuver without petrol. Hitler prioritized the Eastern Front. Resupplying a division in Africa required 10 times the shipping of one in Russia. Rommel never received full strategic backing. By mid-1942, the RAF's Desert Air Force dominated the skies. Axis supply convoys were bombed relentlessly. Rommel's early reliance on Luftwaffe support evaporated. Early British tactics were flawed. By El Alamein, they had integrated infantry and armor, improved anti-tank guns, 6-pounders, leveraged artillery supremacy, used intelligence effectively. Montgomery removed improvisation and replaced it with methodical attrition. Rommel thrived in chaos. Montgomery eliminated chaos. The open desert allowed Rommel to maneuver like a naval commander. El Alamein's narrow front denied him space. Tunisia's mountains crippled armored warfare. The battlefield changed. Rommel could not. Rommel often outran his supplies. His style relied on speed and surprise. When surprise faded, logistics decided everything. The Tank War. Early British Matilda IIs were nearly immune to Italian guns. German Panzer IIIs and IVs later gained long-barrel upgrades. American M3 Grants and M4 Shermans restored Allied parity. Rommel eventually received Tiger tanks, powerful but fuel-hungry and too late to matter. Technology alone didn't decide the war. Artillery did. Supply did. Air power did. Rommel was energetic, daring, and tactically brilliant. Even British officers warned their men not to mythologize him. But brilliance at the tactical level cannot overcome strategic neglect, supply failure, industrial inferiority, Allied numerical dominance. Rommel won battles. The Allies won the campaign. The Desert Fox was not defeated by a single general, tank, or battle. He was defeated by the narrowing sands of El Alamein, the artillery of Montgomery, the landings of Operation Torch, the bombers over the Mediterranean, and the sheer industrial weight of the Allied war machine. Rommel's African adventure began with audacity. It ended with evacuation and surrender. And in the end, the desert did not belong to the fox. It belonged to whoever could supply it.